I read 13 books this month, 10 physical copies of books, and 3 ebooks, which is the most books I've read since March. So let me just say I'm extremely proud of myself. Not that how many books you read matters, depending on, like, if you call yourself a reader, you don't have to read that many books. But when it comes to me, who the past, like, literally what it felt like the entire summer was in a reading slump and, like, was barely reading 5 books a month, this is a very big thing for me, especially because I'm attempting to become a full-time content creator. So I just recently hit 6,000 followers. I'm at 6,500 right now on my TikTok. So if you're not following my TikTok, go follow it down below so I can hit 10K and join the creator fund and do all that fun stuff. But I'm also trying to build my booktube. So if you are not following me, or if you're not subscribed to my booktube, subscribe now. I promise I will be posting more content now that I have a steady school and work schedule. So let's get right into the video of talking about my August wrap up. So as I said before, I read 10 physical books and 3 ebooks. One of the ebooks was an ARC, and the other 2 were just books that were on Kindle Unlimited that I really wanted to read, and I finally got to reading them. So I'm going to talk about my ebooks first. I read 2 of them really early in the month, and then the other one I read like on my vacation to Oregon, which is where I read a lot of my books because I had a lot of free time in the car, and unlike some people, I can actually read in the car, which feeds into my God complex just a little bit. So the first ebook I read this month was The Selection by Kira Cass. I know literally everyone and their mom has read this book. I have never read it. My friend Peyton, who literally does not read, was like, I'm halfway through this book, you need to finish it so that I can finish it. I read it. I absolutely adored it. It's like one of my favorite books right now, but the problem is that I loved it, and I loved the first book, and I love Maxon, but I hate America, to be honest, because she is literally cheating on Maxon and having an affair with Aspen, who is also devoted his life to their country and should not be having an affair with her. Anyway, she's kind of like an atomic bomb blowing up people's lives, and I know that it probably only gets worse. But it's just kind of like with the Shadow and Bone series, like with The Selection, I don't feel like I need to read the other 2 books. Like, I don't feel the need to. I know that I would probably love them if I read them. I just don't. It's not at the top of my TBR, so it probably won't be by the end of this year that I finish the Selection series, just like it probably won't be this year that I finish Shadow and Bone, which everybody's already read. But I did read the first Shadow and Bone book. I liked it. I just don't have a connection with the series to finish it like I did with like the Crave series, where I was like, I need to read the next 2 books right now. Anyways, moving on. The second ebook I read this month was The Spanish Love Deception. I absolutely loved The Spanish Love Deception. If you've ever read The Hating Game, not to like dismiss either author, but they are basically copy and paste, just like different, like slightly. Like The Spanish Love Deception has a fake dating trope, which like The Hating Game doesn't have a fake dating trope, but because of how long they were rivals, it kind of feels like fake dating when they go to the wedding, but it's not, like they're together kind of. I don't know. Anyways, I loved The Spanish Love Deception. I loved the aspect of Aaron Blackford and Lena. They were like, I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't mean to swear. Anyways, Lena and Aaron were like the grumpy sunshine trope, which is like it is in The Hating Game, but I felt like it was even more because in The Hating Game, I feel like Lucy's not really that bothered by the fact that Josh hates her, and they like have banter back and forth. But Lena is like, why does he hate me? Like, he literally hates me and he drives me crazy and I hate him so much kind of thing. Where like in The Hating Game, they're just kind of like fun banter back and forth, like we don't like each other, but I feel like there was no use of like, I hate you, even though it's called The Hating Game. Like, there was clearly a lot of care between the 2 characters. This was definitely a 5 out of 5 read for me. I would definitely read it again. It is extremely slow burn, rivals to lovers. If you don't like slow burn, don't read this. And the last book I read that was an ebook was called Cupcake by Cookie O'Gorman. The name is not misleading at all. It is about a girl named Cupcake. Her name is actually Ariel, named after the princess from The Little Mermaid because her mom loved Disney. But everybody calls her Cupcake because she bakes a lot. I think it's really cute that the author's name is Cookie and the girl in the book's name is Cupcake, but I really enjoyed Cupcake because it was a very good plus-size rep romance book. basically Cupcake gets nominated for homecoming court, which means she's like competing against a bunch of other girls to be homecoming queen. And she gets paired up with the star quarterback of the high school as her Prince Charming, which is like he's nominated for homecoming king, but they're like in a group, so like everybody has a pair, and she got paired up with the quarterback. And she immediately is like, we can switch, like if you hate me, like I know I'm fat and I like all these things. Like she is very insecure about herself because society has taught her to be that way. And he's like, no, like you're beautiful, I like you. Like he clearly from the beginning likes her. So if you like the boy falls first trope, this is the shit for you. He loves her. Like he would do anything for her. He watched her favorite movies. He learned to bake a cake for her mom, for his mom, just so he could spend time with her. Like he does so many things. There are so many cute tropes. One really oddly specific trope that I really like is just baking in books in general. Like if there's any sort of baking, I'm in. I don't know why. It's just a thing. But like in the birthday list, she bakes a lot. And like in Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow, which I haven't read yet, I know she bakes. I just absolutely love baking for some reason. But this whole book is like about baking. So if you like baking, read it. If you like plus size representation, read it. It has the trope where she gets picked up and scooped because she gets hurt. Like there are so many good tropes in here that I was like, this is literally so good. To me, it did read a little bit like a cliche romance movie rather than a romance novel. It is very cliche and very like plus size, but also at the same time, as much as it's like a cliche plus size rom-com, it's not all about her weight. Like nowhere at all is she like, I hate my weight, like I'm so fat, like I need to lose weight. No, she is building other ladies up who are insecure about their weight, and she is completely confident in the body that she was given. So good for her. Read this book. It comes out in November, I think. I'll put like the actual date that it comes out, but definitely read it. I really enjoyed it, and I want to read it again when it comes out in a physical copy. All right, now that the ebooks are out of the way, I'm going to go in order of which books I read this month. So the first book I read was Desperate Measures by Katie Roberts. I got this in a blind date with a book at Barnes & Noble, and I knew what book it was just because I had seen this book so much on TikTok, and it was like Aladdin retelling, spicy book, like erotic romance. I was like, I know what this is, and I wanted to read it, so I'm just going to buy it. Before I start talking about this book, any member of my family, don't watch this part if you don't want to learn things about me and the type of books that I enjoy to read now. I do want to preface, I did read this when I was 17, but I turned 18 22 days later. And also, Mom, I know you like the 50 Shades of Grey book, so you might like this book. Desperate Measures is an Aladdin retelling where if Jasmine had ended up with Jafar instead of Aladdin, what would happen? But you see, it's a very small book. Almost every other page has a sex scene on it or something relating to sex. I enjoyed this book. I hate to say it, I did enjoy this book. If you like smutty books, which as a person I do enjoy smutty books, this book is really good. It will get you out of a reading slump because it's just really short and it's just really fast paced. There is actually a plot to this, like Aladdin is trying to kidnap Jasmine back, and Aladdin is like a really bad person, and Jafar was like her bodyguard, and there's just like actually plot, which I didn't expect. I thought it was literally just going to be like a reverse harem, which it kind of is, but also at the same time it's just kind of like consensual non-consent and not necessarily a reverse harem. But if I'm completely honest, I don't really know what reverse harem means. So if you want to fill me in the comments, thank you. It was really good. Do I need to read the other books in the series? No. Are they all on my Amazon wishlist in case somebody wanted me to? Yes. But yeah, definitely like a 5, not a 5 out of 5, like a 3 out of 5. Quick read, good smut, like well written. Other than that, I wouldn't give it a 5 out of 5 because I would hate to say that this is a 5-star read. The next book I read was The Roommate by Rosie Danan. I really liked this book. I know that a lot of people are like super hyped about this book and they really, really enjoyed it. I didn't really feel that way about it. It's basically about a girl named Clara who moves to Los Angeles from the East Coast and like her socialite family with her childhood friend who she's always been in love with, but he has never showed her any affection. And then he leaves her to go on tour and now she's stuck and he's like, oh, I rented my room out. And so she has a roommate who's a man who is also, spoiler alert, an adult film star. His name is Josh Darling, and she didn't know that when she met him. She was like, his name's just Josh. And then she meets him and she tells her friend about him, and her friend's like, your roommate is Josh Darling. Like, everybody knows who he is. He's like a very popular adult film star in the universe that this book is set in. I really enjoyed it. I thought the sex scenes and like the romance were really good and well written. I was not very attached to the actual plot of the book. The characters were okay. The plot was okay. Basically the plot of the book is that they decide, because Joshua is going to get like blackballed in the adult film industry, they're going to open their own adult film like company where they talk about like women's pleasure and stuff. I thought that was like a really cool aspect. I just wasn't invested in it. I might want to read it again when I'm not just like reading it because I have it, because that's kind of what I was doing, is I just grabbed a book off my shelf instead of picking a book I really want to read. It is in third person. Yeah, it's in third person, which also might be why I didn't like it that much. It's just really hard to get into a third person book, but I would give this like a 4 out of 5, maybe like a 3.5. But it's definitely worth a read, like if you like forced proximity books. But anyways, moving on. The next book I read is one of my favorite books of all time now, and my favorite series of all time, which is Love and Olives. This is the third installation of the Love and Gelato series. If you've never read Love and Gelato, it's a series about a girl who gets like sent to Italy to talk to her dad, and then every book is basically like an American teenager getting sent to a different country to have like this family bonding situation, is what I would say. Love and Gelato follows Lena, Love and Luck follows Addie, and Lena and Addie are best friends back in the US. But Love and Olives you could read as a standalone. They are not connected to any of the other books other than the fact that it is just kind of like part of the same series. I really enjoyed this one. This one was definitely my favorite book. It basically follows a girl named Liv whose dad left her for Atlantis and moved back to Santorini, Greece, where her dad is originally from, when she was like 8 years old. And she doesn't know anything about him. And he sends her these postcards in the mail that she's normally like, no, I don't care. Like, you left me. But he sends her a postcard saying he thinks he's found Atlantis and he wants her to come. And her mom thinks it's a really good idea, so her mom sends her there. And she lives her life just like so different than what her dad thinks. He calls her Olive still. Her name is Olive, but she goes by Liv now. He calls her Olive still, and she's like, my name is Liv. And she doesn't want anything to do with her dad. But there is also a boy named Theo there who has been spending the summer with her dad and knows a lot about her dad and is like bugging her with questions about her dad. And she's like, stop. Like, if you want to still be my friend, stop asking me about my dad. And they go on like fun adventures and stuff. This book, it looks really long, but it picks up in the middle of it. And so it feels like you only read like a 200-page book. I really enjoyed this book. My favorite in the series. Please read Love and Gelato. If you call yourself a fan of mine, you will probably see it in like 700 videos after this, but I definitely recommend reading Love and Gelato if you've been on the fence about it. Surprise, surprise, the next book is a book in that takes place with an American girl in a foreign country, because as we all know, Anne and the French Kiss is one of my favorite books, and I can't stop reading books where girls go to foreign countries. This book is called Kisses and Croissants. If you've seen my book haul, which was like one of my first videos, where I talked about buying this book and wanting to compare it to Anne and the French Kiss, don't worry guys, I did it the whole time while I was reading. But it wasn't very hard for me to tell from the beginning it wasn't going to be anything like Anne and the French Kiss, because she's not like going to boarding school. So basically, Mia is from New York, and she did not get into the ballet intensive summer thing that she wanted to when she was auditioning for it, but she did get into one in France, and her mom is not supportive of her ballet because her mom used to be a ballerina and didn't like it and like wasn't successful, blah blah blah. But her grandma has convinced her of the fact that one of their ancestors danced at the ballet that Mia is going to, and she spends her whole time in France running around looking at paintings of ballerinas that were painted by this like really specific painter, and supposedly her grandma's grandma, like if it's, I don't know if it's like her grandma's grandma or whatever, but like someone in their family was painted by this painter, and so she has come in love with this painter. The thing is, she does not do this all by herself. On like her first day, she's leaving and she meets a boy named Louis, and she needs to make it all the way downtown to get a leotard for class, and Louis takes her on his motorcycle, and she starts to get like this huge crush on him, but obviously it's like ballet, so she's very serious about being like, I am a ballerina, like this is my dream, I can't give it up for like love. But they still spend the summer together, and then a little bit into the book, she finds out something about him that is very dangerous and has a conversation with her ballet teacher. This book was okay. It did not live up to the hype of the other books I have read. I definitely really liked the plot of this book, but the romance was not that heavy for me, which is why I haven't made a Kisses and Croissants Spotify playlist, because if you don't know, I make playlists for all the books that I become obsessive over. Definitely like read it if you liked Anna and the French Kiss, but it's not similar. I would say if you liked Anna and the French Kiss, read Love and Gelato more. But yeah, this was like a 3.5, 4. I'm trying to rate my books more honestly instead of just rating everything a 5 out of 5. So if my Goodreads says differently, just ignore it. This is definitely like a 3.5 out of 4 now that I think about it. If you follow me on TikTok, you know this book absolutely crushed my soul. This book is Instructions for Dancing by Nicola Yoon. If you guys have read this book, you know what I'm talking about. This book follows Evie as she is going through her parents' divorce and seeing her dad get married to someone new, and has completely convinced herself that love does not exist. That is when Evie goes on a bike ride and she finds a little free library and wants to look in. She was actually getting rid of all of her romance books because she doesn't believe in love, putting them in the little free library, and an old lady comes up to her and is like, you're using the little free library, like you need to take a book. There was only one other book in there, and it was called Instructions for Dancing. On the book, sorry, I had something in my throat. On the book, it says, please return to this dance studio. So she's like, well, I guess like I'll take this and return it. So she drives all the way to the dance studio and meets the receptionist, who is also a dance teacher there. And she's like, I've never seen that book before, like you can keep it, but you should come to this dance class. So she goes to the dance class, and when she comes out, there is a boy on her bicycle, and she was like, are you stealing my bike? And he was like, I was just borrowing it, I'm bringing it back now. His name is X. X's grandparents own the dance studio and convince them to be a part of the dance competition that their studio is a part of, and Evie doesn't have anything better to do, basically, so she says yes. And X and Evie get really close, but the thing that I'm keeping out is something that I didn't know, but like it's in here, I just didn't realize how big of a part it would be. Evie begins to see, like she hasn't always been able to see. She begins to see the beginning and end of every relationship that she sees of people kiss. And so she sees so many people's relationships end and the reasons why, and it honestly makes her stop believing in love. There's a really good message in this book, and it's very heartbreaking and very sad, and I loved it. This is definitely actually a 5 out of 5. I want to read Nicola Yoon's other books, but if you haven't already read Instructions for Dancing, please read Instructions for Dancing. The next book I'm going to talk about is Field Notes on Love. I read this book because I wanted to read something short to get caught up on my Goodreads goal, and if I'm being completely honest, my friend Ayla, she really likes this book, or she like really liked it. I liked it. I don't love it. Like, I was like, yeah, this is a cool, interesting story. This story is about a boy named Hugo who gets broken up with by his girlfriend, like, literally, like, a couple days or a week before they're supposed to go on this, like, week-long trip to the other side of America. So he lives in the UK, and his girlfriend was going to college in California, and they were going to take a train trip across, and he was going to drop her off and then fly back to England. But she breaks up with him, and he still has these tickets, but the thing is that everything that is booked is in her name, which her name is Margaret Campbell. And so he posts a Craigslist ad being like, if your name is Margaret Campbell and you wouldn't mind coming on a trip with a stranger, like, we don't have to talk to each other or anything, I just need someone named Margaret Campbell to get me on this train. So there's a girl named May who is about to go to school in USC, and she takes him up on his offer. She's like, I want to have fun, I just broke up with my summer fling, like, let's go. they obviously fall in love and like have these cute little moments. And May is a film student whose film got rejected from USC, so she's not technically a film student yet. Hugo is just trying to figure out his place in the world because he's an octuplet, which means he has 7 other siblings, and he just like feels like he's never had time to be himself. I kind of like this book. They're making it into a movie with Dove Cameron and Jordan Fisher, where like if you read this book, they are way too old to play these characters, and I wish it was somebody else, but I probably will still watch the movie and do a comparison. But I just, not my fave. Like 3 out of 5. Sorry this video is really long. I just have a lot of thoughts. The next book I read is by my tried and true, never disappointing author, Colleen Hoover. It's called Confess. Confess follows a girl named Auburn whose first love dies when she's 15, and she is just like completely heartbroken. Obviously, like the prologue takes you through all of that. And she lives in Dallas. When she's originally from Portland, she moves back to Dallas, Texas, and is just like trying to find her place in the world when she comes upon this building that says urgently hiring, and it has like all these confessions all around the walls. And she's like, well, I need a job, like I have a job, but I could use a second job, I could use more money. And all of a sudden the owner of the studio comes out and is like, you need a job, you're hired, like I have a dress upstairs for you. My ex used to work for me, she literally quit like 2 hours ago, and I just need you for tonight. I will pay you $100 an hour. And she makes $400 in one night. They begin to get to know each other. She's like, why do you have all these confessions, blah blah blah. So basically the guy's name is Owen. He creates paintings based on confessions that people leave at his studio. Like there's like a little slot you can put things in. Owen is just this really interesting character to where he is very upfront about his feelings with her, but he does a lot of things that get him in trouble, and there's a part of her that she cannot get in trouble, or this will never happen for her. There is just a lot going on that it would be really hard to give you a synopsis, but basically this book has a lot of plot twists and a lot of twists and turns. It kept me involved, and I'm really excited for somebody else to read it so I can talk to them about it. I would give this like a 4 out of 5. Not my favorite Colleen Hoover, but not the worst. Now let's talk about a book that I actually thought was bad. This is Freshman by Tom Ellen and Lucy Iveson. Me and my friend Ellie buddy read this while I was in Oregon. I thought this book was going to be this book that I would become so attached to because I'm about to be a freshman in college and all this stuff. This book was set in England, which one, kind of off-putting just based on me being American and going into college, wasn't what I was expecting. I was like, okay, like interesting. All of the characters in this book are terrible people except for one, and he does not deserve what he didn't get, basically. So this book follows Phoebe and Luke, who end up going to the same college after high school, and Phoebe's entire high school life she's had a crush on Luke, but Luke has had a long-term girlfriend named Abby, and they break up when he's like drunk, and he's like, I don't want to do long distance, blah blah blah. They break up. All of a sudden Phoebe and Luke start hanging out because they went to the same high school and they're like interested in the same things. And there's rumors that there's this wall of shame, which includes pictures of girls who have slept with a soccer team, and everybody just gets to see these pictures. It's not like naked pictures of them, it's like pictures of them sleeping like as their conquests. And they just like, the characters in this book are so bad. Like they force it so hard for Luke and Phoebe to be love interests when they have no chemistry at all. I was interested in the other characters' lives more than I was interested in Luke and Phoebe, and Josh is the best character in this story and he got absolutely nothing. So I absolutely do not like this book. I will probably be donating it to like a little free library or something, but I don't like it. Also, I don't know if this was just for the English, like if they changed it for the USA edition. They call soccer in this book, but it's set in the UK. They don't call it football, which as an American, I know that in the UK they call soccer football, and I would have been able to follow. It's just annoying, and it took me out of the whole story, and I, to be honest, don't like this book at all and would never read it again. The next book I read, which is literally one of my favorite books ever, was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. While I was in Oregon, this was one of the books that I brought with me, and my mom didn't have a book, and we were just kind of like chilling at the hotel for a little bit, and she asked me if she could borrow one, and I was like, well, I haven't read this, but I think you probably would like it. She really liked it. She cried. and she was like, you need to read it. So after I finished one of my books on vacation, I started The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I absolutely loved this book. Like, I wasn't expecting to. I'm not a very big fan of literary fiction, and also it's really hard for me to get in like historical fiction, but this is a cool aspect of historical fiction where it's like set in like Hollywood glamour in like the 1950s and 60s and all that stuff. I really like the aspect of it being like written as like a journal about Evelyn Hugo. I just really liked this whole book. If you are on the fence about reading this because Book Talk hypes it up so much, I feel like the hype was well deserved. It was really well written and it kept me involved the entire time. I was very invested in Evelyn's story, and there's just other characters in this book that I absolutely loved. Like, Harry Cameron is literally like my favorite book character probably of all time, and I was absolutely crushed at what happened to him in the book. But definitely read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is definitely a 5 out of 5 star for read for me. And the last book I read this month was actually sent to me by an author. Her name is Devney Perry, and I read this book in like a day and a half. It's called The Birthday List. The Birthday List follows a girl named Poppy whose husband died tragically in an armed robbery. And he had this, and it was also like the day before their anniversary. It was really sad. And he had this list of things he wanted to do before like specific birthdays in his life, and to get some closure and like feel closer to him, I guess, Poppy is finishing doing these things. One of the things on his list was to open a restaurant with Poppy that was jar inspired, because their name is Mason. Their last name is Mason, Maysen, like mason jar, and so it's like called the Mason jar, but it's spelled with their last name. And she does like a bunch of different things too. One of the things being she goes to a karate class because that was on the list, and she finds that the man who completely broke her life is the karate instructor. And reading the back of this, you think, oh my god, he killed her husband. He did not kill her husband. Cole Goodman is actually the police officer who told Poppy that her husband was dead, and completely destroyed her life, basically. They start to get to know each other again. He finds out that she's doing the list, and he's like, well, if you need any help, let me know. And at the same time, he becomes more invested in Poppy's life because he slowly starts to fall for her, and he decides to take the case on himself, even though it's been 5 years and nobody has found anything. And he takes the case and starts solving the murder of her husband. So it's really good. It's really slow burn in the way that Poppy is still like opening up to Cole, and there's like a lot of trauma there, and so obviously it's not going to be like a really fast burn. It's really slow, but once it gets to the spicy parts, like, it's pretty spicy and it's like really good. This is all of my tabs. I tabbed like the plot points of the murder because I was really interested in them, and like I liked that it was like a main part of the book was actually like solving the murder. So it was kind of like a thriller, but not really, just like a cold case solve kind of thing. It was not a huge part of the book, but it was still definitely fun. I would give this book like a 4.5 out of 5. I thought it was very well written, but I'm not a very big fan of second chance romance. And also, slow burns are very hard for me to read because I need insta love, to be honest. Alright, that's all the books that I read in August. I'm not sure when this video will go up because I want to spend a lot of time editing it and making sure that it's really good for everyone. But the next video I will be filming is my September TBR. If there's any other videos you guys want to see, like books based on this trope, I really want my account to be kind of like Steph Barrera, because she's like one of my biggest inspirations when it comes to booktube. And she just like, honestly, like if you look at my TikTok compared to her YouTube, we have a lot of the same videos. Mine are just on TikTok, and I like found her after I started TikTok, so I just think we're very similar people in general. But yeah, if you like Steph Barrera, definitely subscribe to my channel because I'm gonna do a lot of videos inspired by hers. Obviously not carbon copies of each other, but kind of just like playing off of the types of videos that she films. I also plan on doing some vlogs, like reading vlogs and college vlogs and things like that. So if you're interested in seeing that, comment down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment down below videos you'd like to see, and make sure you're following my book talk. Thanks, guys.